Thanks for tuning into this episode of FinTech Focus TV, powered by Harrington Starr, the global leaders in financial technology recruitment. Head over to the Harrington Starr website where you'll be able to find all the latest jobs in financial technology across the globe. You'll also be able to download the latest issue of the Financial Technologist magazine, including the Top 1% Workplace Awards. Finally, if you're looking to grow your team, please get in touch. Enjoy the show. Hello and welcome to another episode of FinTech Focus TV with me, Toby Babb. I have been delighted and excited about this episode for some time. Ever since it sort of got put into my diary, it's something where I've been reading more and more about the business. It's with someone who I've known of for a long time. I've seen their story sort of check out. It's an exciting space to be in. And it's my absolute pleasure to introduce you all to Phil Goffin from ZILO. Phil, how are you?
Hi, Toby. Yeah, great. Thank you. Nice to be here.
Likewise. So listen, it's as I said before, there's a lot to talk about today. You're at a time there we've just raised Series A, some good money from there, from some great investors. Exciting time for you, exciting time for the business. I want to go into all of that. We've been speaking beforehand, and it sounds like there's a bit of a story to tell about the whole journey for it as well, which I'm looking forward to getting into. But before we do all of that, Phil, tell us a little bit about yourself, your journey, and most importantly, ZILO and what the business is doing.
Yeah, well, so I'm probably slightly older than the typical fintech startup entrepreneur, but I came up to the UK. I'm a Kiwi by accent, as you can probably tell, but I came up to the UK in '98, so many years ago. I was a bank manager by trade in New Zealand, which didn't really count for anything when you arrived in the UK. And I ended up working for my sins in the asset management industry, dealing with call center telephony, and originally Threadneedle when they became Threadneedle, and they had about 500,000 customers that had migrated into this new wonderful brand called Threadneedle, and forgot to tell people too much about it in their correspondence. So everyone tried to ring and melted the phone system down. So I was thrown in as a naive Kiwi, but with problem-solving skills, I think, to resolve all of that, and sort of worked my way through the asset management industry over many years. I was always entrepreneurial in nature, so I left. Well, I helped actually start co-funds when I was at Threadneedle. I wrote the original plan around that. Okay. Many years ago, and then sort of helped refinance something called EMXco, which was a market initiative, it's an order routing network, but think of it like a transaction network for B2B for the players, and we sort of refinanced that when I was at Threadneedle, and then moved on to help set up Inside Investment, and finally decided to go start my own business, and one of which was Calastone, which is obviously, as you know, Toby, did pretty well and was sold to Carlisle a couple of years back for over 300 million. And that was a fabulous business. It was a very simple premise too of connectivity. You know, back then the cost of running a fund transaction, I think, was around £6.50. Yeah. And a single order, and so we put a proposition in the market which was half the price, and you know, we slowly but surely gathered the UK and global markets. So Calastone today is, I think, the largest order routing network for funds in the world. Outside, it's been a great story, hasn't it? It has, and Julian, the CEO, and the team have done a brilliant job. I think they're trying to move it all towards blockchain.
How is it seeing that sort of baby taken on? Because that's never an easy play, is it?
No, it's not. It's so I was never. I was the founder of it, or co-founder, but Kevin, two gentlemen, Kevin Leone and Taylor, were the guys that you will also remember that ran it originally and sort of took it on. And so I kind of was in and out of the business, and it's always good being the creative ideas, but there are great people that actually built that business and executed on that. And I think that's always probably for me been something that's really important, is not only to think of great ideas as an entrepreneur, but actually to have a brilliant team and great people around you that can execute through. So it's lovely to see Calastone being successful. I have no interest in it anymore. I'm fully exited, but you know, it's great. They're trying to evolve, trying to move through the marketplace. Lots of exciting things happening. Lots of challenges for them with the world of distributed ledgers and whether they can build a market infrastructure around that. But again, I think they're in the right space. They've just got to be good at execution, you know.
And that leads you to ZILO.
Yeah, so I left Calastone and spent a bit of time at IFDS where they asked me to come in and help them drive at innovation. And large corporates really struggle with innovation, as we know. So we sort of built a team. I called it an outside in approach. Just build a team outside and bring it in, and then moved off to FNZ for a while before realizing in 2020 or 2019 when I was at FNZ that I really had one more thing, you know, one level of purpose that I wanted to achieve in the industry, and that was really to kind of bring the culmination of my 20-something years of knowledge and I guess entrepreneurial, slightly maverick approach to seeing if we could actually really get radical change from the ground up in the industry. So we set out to do that with ZILO, and ZILO is really all about, it's, you know, I won't kind of, we talk about transfer agency, but most people won't understand what that is. But the core of the industry, everyone's book of record and register and the sum of all their transactions sits inherently on technology, legacy technology that's end of life, that's more than 20 years old, that is really badly structured in terms of the data, and poorly supported by the large players in the industry who are software companies. But nobody was making that change to radical new technology. And the reason is because most of those incumbent software firms and providers are, you know, deriving a significant amount of their revenues and profitability from these legacies. So there's no incentive to change. And actually, why would you? Because you're going to disrupt your existing business. It's just sort of straight out of the innovation rule book. You know, you don't disrupt your existing market. But we didn't have that, obviously, around us. So we said, well, we're going to start from the ground up. And that's probably slightly contrarian to a normal, you know, startup where you kind of go, oh, we want to build a great digital experience and brilliant front ends and make customers really happy. We said, yeah, we want to do all of that, and that's really inherent and important to do. But actually, we need to fix the ground, the foundations, if you like, of the industry, which we saw as initially as transfer agency, that register, that book of record, and bring that into a modern age. So make it cloud-based microservice architecture, same as the challenger banks, with beautiful digital front ends, digital only or digital first, and you know, and take much of the cost and friction out of that software which has existed around our industry, and multiple handoffs and reconciliations to different systems and engines, because not because you have to, but actually because, you know, your system's not good enough to do it. And so we started ZILO, and we were very lucky. You know, we spent a good year building what everyone calls a minimum viable product. Spent a bunch of my money and investors' money.
And the investors at the start this is the seed round and friends and family.
So we did you know, the same thing. I mean, the UK is brilliant at one level of this. I think in the venture capital side is sort of handing off from seed to venture capital is a bit of a challenge. But at the seed level, because of the tax structures with EIS incentives, then you know, if you tap into the a number of the high net worth individuals or you know, people that are on significantly good salaries that want to invest in startups but don't want risk and they want to minimize their downside, it's a fabulous mechanism. You know, obviously, because I've been in the industry a long time, I was able to tap into a number of those people who knew me reputationally and were keen to support something I did. And so we raised initial capital. You know, thinking you gained a couple of million initially in that, and then went through our first year, and then we started engaging with a custodian bank who came along and they invested in us, and you'll know them anyhow as the first investor was Citi, and so, you know, that really kind of forced us into growing up very quickly, because we sort of talked to a number of parties before that and said, look, we can build the software. We didn't kind of work out who we're going to sell it to. And then we realized, well, actually, for us, for ZILO, we see the custodian banks as kind of the gateways to the future of the industry, because in times of turbulent markets, people look for surety. Surety tends to mean you look towards the bank level of surety. And we felt that those custodian banks were really providing a number of these services in the market. When it came to transfer agency, it was a poor cousin of everything else they were doing, and yet they needed an integrated solution. So we felt that was our path, and we engaged, and that's been really well supported. I think is how
it's so important to get that sort of the right people on board early, from a customer perspective, that sort of have are aligned in the mission of where you want to go. And I love the way you sort of very humbly sort of mentioned there about it being a bit of luck in that sort of that sort of play. But when you're solving the right problems, luck tends to follow, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, and you know this anyhow, because I'm sure you've done all these interviews and things. But I always think of being a good entrepreneur requires probably three things. And one is, yes, you've got to have a creative mind. That sometimes is also a negative as well as a positive, because your kind of mind can operate in slightly different ways to everyone else. The creative mind's really important. The second thing really is problem solving, and you've just got to be a good problem solver. And even, Musk always talks about first principles in terms of breaking everything down to first principles. And I think at a problem solving level, if you have an inherent ability to break issues down into complex issues into simple problems and then try and solve them through that, then that's kind of quite a gift. And sometimes it means, maybe you're more stupid than other people because you're not thinking at that detailed level, but actually sometimes enables you to kind of cut through a lot of stuff. I think the third thing with an entrepreneur that you need, which again everyone knows, is resilience. And resilience is critical. I mean, we were saying before this that it's quite a vibrant market. There's lots of venture capitalists wanting to engage and all of that, but kind of getting them to give you a term sheet is about kind of, I would characterize as about a third of the way through it. And then you've got to go through all the due diligence process, and you've got to negotiate through all the contracts and everything. And that's extraordinarily complex if you've got more than one party involved, and also different parties. For us, we had strategic
different agendas at various stages as well, right?
Yeah, and I mean, actually, I was really naive about this, and I shouldn't be, but I kind of came to me one night when we're watching the negotiations, kind of, we had the term sheet. We're all in our kind of period where we should be sort of closing out all the contracts and stuff, and we're watching literally the deal fall apart. And I'm going, as I said to my general counsel, in-house lawyer, I said, I don't know that there's anything more I can do here. And he said, well, we'll sleep on it and we'll start again tomorrow. So that's the resilience thing, is we just carry on. But the second thing that I then realized is, hold on a second, there are venture capital on one side that are really driving about a business and an exit, and I have a strategic investors, more than one, on the other side, who are really more interested in this supporting their future, right? And that sometimes that can work, that can align, but actually at the point we were negotiating right there, there wasn't an alignment. And so I had to go and find that alignment for the parties and say, look, I know you want this and we're driving towards this, but I also know you as a strategic partner, you want that. And we're also, so we ended up bringing that together really well. I have to say it was painful, but, we did that, and, lots of sleepless nights. I went away, booked a holiday, as you were saying, I was saying to you, I booked a holiday with my family. I'm in New Zealand, so I was heading out towards New Zealand for Christmas. We wanted to spend 2 or 3 days in Phuket. I thought the deal would be done and signed. We knew it, we'd been working on it for months. And I got on the plane, by the time I reached Phuket, the deal was going sideways. So I ended up, well, my family was out doing all the nice things, 24 hours a day on phone calls. I mean, I can even still feel that nauseous gripping. I don't get anxious. I'm not one of these people that has suffered from that, probably because I'm a bit thick. But even then it was gripping me, and we kind of went through that. We then, on our way out to my poor wife and kids, kind of having a holiday without me. Well, maybe that didn't make them poor. Probably happy. We got on a
They
plane.
loved it. They were the ones scuppering the deal.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there was lots of why didn't you retire? And I said, well, I did technically for about 3 years.
Yeah, good time.
But I got on a plane to New Zealand, which was via Singapore. Stopped over in Singapore for an hour and a half. Phone turns on, lights up like a Christmas tree. More deal problems going sideways. All parties phoning me, kind of literally screaming at me. Tried to kind of put a band-aid over it as I got back onto the plane to go out to New Zealand on a 12-hour flight. Spoke to my chairman, who was an exceptional individual, Gordon Neely, massively experienced and really calm. Oh my God, that was probably one of the best things I've ever done, is find him in my career and convince him to come and do the startup world, from a massive kind of corporate background, but he's just a rock. And he said, look, don't worry, we've got this. We'll speak in New Zealand. So then a 12-hour flight, obviously no speaking, nothing on that. Get to New Zealand, the phone lights up again, and we're back on it again for another 24 hours, I think. So we actually got the deal agreed literally the night before Christmas, and that was so.
There's a present for you.
So, but then you've got the entrepreneur's curse, right? So everyone goes, hey, you must be so excited. And you kind of go through this funk afterwards.
Yeah.
Where I said, I should have been. But what I was thinking about is all of 24 coming up, what we've got to do. And I am excited. I'm energized. But my mind just suddenly moves on to the next thing. I
think that's a good thing, though, right? Especially in the position you're in. And we'll come on to 24 in a minute. But I'm really interested in this because I speak to so many people who've gone through this journey, and I think the sort of mecca for people is to have the it's the glamour of a Series A, a Series B, a Series C, all of this sort of stuff. But I speak to so many people, founders, who've gone through this sort of journey, and that people, I think, diminish the sort of the complexity of it. There's taking your eyes away from the business that you've been building and making sure you've got the infrastructure behind that for that business to run itself when it is so invested in that Series A and Series B. It's, as you say, that the sort of stress it takes on you from a pretty chilled out guy from what I'm taking so far. It's everyone I've spoken to has gone through those sleepless nights and the sort of last minute to and fro's and had holidays and families interrupted from it. There's a human cost around that sort of stuff to get it into that sort of phase, and quite often it's people who are going through it where the cash is essential to the survival of the business at the same sort of stage as well. So I think that's that sort of process of people understanding that journey and thinking about where it goes. Because I mentioned to you beforehand a fantastic conversation with 3 VCs at the start of this year talking about their optimism for the marketplace. And I think that it's a fantastic time for them for many reasons, but predominantly because it's a good time for them to be investing in businesses, valuation wise, etc. Obviously, at the same sort of time. So we know there's powder in the market at the moment, and there's people there who want to invest in the right sort of things, but they're very, very clear that it's got to be in the right projects. So I want to talk to a little bit about you going through this sort of thing with VC and institutional investors at the same sort of time, and making sure you're getting that right, because it's a process there where I'm sure you kissed a lot of frogs. You mentioned before we came on air talking about it not being the first rodeo, etc. But at the same sort of time, it's always slightly different in every time you go through it, from having everything with Carlisle, which I can imagine is super complex, to where you are at the moment with no less complexity, but even more odds on it, so to speak, at the same sort of time. Tell me a little bit. They were talking about what they look for in a company they're going to invest in, and generally it's about the people and the founder and the products and the market size and the area that they're in, etc., etc. I think that to get it right from a founder perspective, to say, right, who am I looking for, as opposed to just the money, but who am I looking for? How did you go through that sort of process, and what was important to you in that part of the decision making?
So we hired a venture capital, a corporate finance firm, and that was Perella Weinberg Partners. And so I was sort of not favouring that idea initially, but my chairman Gordon again said, "Look, we need support." And now ZILO's a business.
Just quickly, why did you not favour it?
Because I thought, like, it's not my first rodeo, right? Like,
yeah.
Of, I know all the VCs want to, at some level, talk to me. Not because I'm anything great, but just I've been around, so
yeah.
At least
it's a good CV, right?
Yeah, and if you're a known quantity at a level, right? So you're already in some sort of box that they have, and well, I can talk to the VCs. We've got a kind of one of the things with ZILO, which was really important because of the nature of when we finally decided in 21 that we wanted to go after kind of core custodian banks. We said, oh my God, we can't do this as a typical startup with, bootstrapping it with four people and finding people that we have to have a really strong leadership executive team around the business, massively experienced people. And I guess the great thing, I'll come to the what you're talking about, for us was I was able to attract those from people that I've worked with across the industry and lots of different lives. And those people were very senior, like Andy Wilson, who's deputy CEO, came out of State Street, like really senior position there, not a typical entrepreneur, but massively experienced in dealing with corporate organizations, really structured, really, and just brilliant under sales and revenue and all of that. So Chris Northwood, who's worked with me for the last 15, 20 years, so we've had great people. Brian Smith, who I brought out of, originally I brought from America when he was at DST, and I was at IFDS and managed to reconnect with him when he was at SS&C and get him across. So we built a really...
You got the dream team.
It was a dream team, but it's expensive, right? So even when you put these people out, and they're not, a number of them have done well through life. So the houses and mortgages kind of mostly paid off, I guess. But so they could sacrifice, right? They could sacrifice some salary for equity or for a run at an upside or for the dream journey, and that was really important. But nevertheless, they're still expensive. They're not. And so the costs of that mean you're going to burn more cash and capital early on. And when I started talking to the venture capitalists, I realized that they were going, well, you've got quite a big team here. It's 12 strong, 13 strong as an executive. It's quite a big leadership team. It's really expensive. And I said, yeah, but in order to get past the bank in terms of being approved on their list, you've got to have resilience. You've got to have all of the risk assessments. You've got to have everything buttoned up, and we need great people. Why do you need a general counsel? Well, actually, that's really important because one of our biggest peers then tried to do some pretty silly stuff against us. So we did all of these were great things, but when you then sit down with the venture capitalists, you kind of then start to go, well, they run through almost a checklist, I think. And well, do we fit in this quadrant? Oh, we like the entrepreneur, the founder. He's got a big background. He's got a great team. And what about the proposition? For us, because we said banks, then, I think the venture capitalists tend to look at, okay, so what are the revenues? And that's fine. What are the clients you've got? And like how many in a volume? And we said, well, we've got one client. They said, one client? Well, it's a global bank. Yeah, but so what? Well, they've got 40 or 50 asset managers underneath, which is who we are directly servicing. Yeah, but it's one client. Yes, but the typical lifespan of that relationship is 10 to 15 years, right? Like this is a once in a generation move of asset. Not a small amount of asset, but billions of dollars and trillions of dollars of asset. And, yeah, but it's still one client. And so for us, then
it just didn't compute at all.
No, look, they got it. They loved it. All the VCs, they would say they love it, but they all loved it. But they're all. If I look through all of the feedback, it's always about, oh yeah, but you're not early because we had a signed contract. We're live. We're literally the point of go live, which we did in July. and that was with $6 or $7 billion of assets. So it's not a small go live, and a very large global asset manager is on top of the bank, underneath the bank. But they still struggle to kind of get their heads around that proposition. It's a B2B space. And that's where we found Portage and Fidelity, but it was really through Perella that helped us. And they got our pitch. The other thing was really important with that, and they, don't get me wrong, and those corporate finance houses, they cost a bunch of money. And you kind of, you do chop off half your arm, and you're constantly asking yourself, am I getting valued? But actually, in terms of shaping the deck and the materials, the plan, all of that, and the preparation, and then those negotiations, I think they did a really good job for us. And
that was always Gordon's sort of view, was it, that you needed that to do it right?
Yeah, we were like massively busy too, right? Like, so we're onboarding, $6 billion, $7 billion of asset, right?
Yeah.
Thousands of customers going live, existential threat to probably one of the largest players in the industry who tries to do all sorts of nefarious things to stop us going live and spreading stuff around the industry and things. Really awful. And sometimes you really question the integrity of some of these corporates and software firms when they do stuff like that. But if you think of it, we are an existential threat. We're a disruptor.
Yeah.
And a disruptor to their biggest clients potentially. So we're in there doing kind of going crazy and hard. And I think you mentioned it. The second part is when you start into that process, that Series A, it's a lot harder.
One eye here, another, yeah.
It's a lot harder than a seed raise. Seed raise is kind of, you can do it on the fly. With the Series A, you suddenly have to put a team aside, and there's heavy due diligence, and that's just to get the term sheet, right? So they do all this stuff. They give you the term sheet, then you've got to adhere to the term sheet, then you negotiate all the long form and stuff. But on top of that, they do more extensive due diligence, and that's really deep due diligence. It's kind of almost forensic, and they look through our code base, they look through our finances and through everything. No stone, I think, was left unturned. And we came out really, really well through that, which was quite interesting. The feedback is of all the Series A businesses, that they've done, we're probably at the highest quadrant in terms of the quality of our technology and the proposition, the team, all those sorts of things. But it was still like getting through the eye of a needle. So no matter how good and how experienced I am at doing it, I mean, the Calastone thing for me was more when we raised the funds for Excel, which was Series A, rather than Carlisle, the exit, because I wasn't involved in that. But the Excel stuff was, and that was, a much smoother process. But again, Calastone was a very simple proposition, whereas ZILO is kind of much broader. And there is now, in Calastone, really wasn't that much competition, innovation. It was just existing providers. Now everyone's trying to talk about DeFi, blockchain market infrastructures, or this. We're trying to build a transfer agency system that has fund accounting that's all part of a market infrastructure and things. And we were very clear initially, we were going to build in the MVP ZILO as a blockchain solution, or a hybrid solution. And then we realized that actually to build a market infrastructure is in our wheelhouse, because we think that the market infrastructures come out of these custodian banks and things, rather than startup fintechs trying to create them, because no matter how good the technology is, the adoption is going to be an enormous challenge. And so we said, well, look, we should build like a technology play, like a challenger bank, or Netflix, so the microservice architecture, full cloud-based, modern. And our competition's still stuck in data centers for the most part. They can't do cloud. I had an argument with one of my former employers where he said, we've got an API set, and I said, that's just, I'm sorry, that's fiction. You're publishing all this stuff in the industry, how great you are, but actually you don't have an API set, and you don't have a gateway to those systems. And so ZILO is very different in all of that.
And it creates that sort of really interesting. I mean, you mentioned it as well there that you know with the effort it takes to get, you know, to the full-time job of actually getting through that Series A. And whilst you said, look, it's a, you know, it's an experienced team, you're still not talking about a massive team to be running everything that you're talking about there in the business at the same sort of stage. That is a lot of pressure on across the entire business, right?
Yeah, well, like with two things. Yeah, so just to be really clear, and I'm quite transparent, we were on fumes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it sounds it from your travel story already, going up to Christmas Eve, right?
I've had to inject my own money into the businesses and a number of our people on multiple occasions, right?
Yeah.
So that's also the one thing is whenever you think that the timeline is, if someone tells you you can do it in 3 months, it's 6.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
they tell you to do it in 6, it's 9 or 12.
Yeah.
So I think the timelines are long, and you know, you need to have the cash runway to cope with the timelines, and
And it was
also
certainly longer in 23 as well, wasn't it?
yeah, and also the massively and the runway to cope with the black swans that come up in the market. I always you know, ZILO is a classic business, which was before ZILO was a cryptocurrency business that we started, and we had Robinhood, which is in the market, came out and wanted to buy that, and I think it was around 21 or something, or 22, and for $180 million, I think it was. You know, it was a great kind of exit play, though that wasn't the purpose. And in that, then the crypto market crashed and the Robinhood stepped away from the deal, and suddenly the business, which before that was well funded, now was in a sort of existential crisis because they're you know, the exit route had sort of vaporized, and we had to then try and figure out what to do next, and that was really problematic. So for ZILO, one of the things we did a lot of was a lot of thinking, a lot of strategic thinking of, okay, so this is great, you know, we've got these two great venture capitalists. I mean, Fidelity, amazing, what a brilliant name, and
Absolutely.
it's right,
and everyone who I speak to gone through that as well has brilliant things to say as well.
Well, look, I mean, they were hard, right? So just to be really, really clear, they're hard negotiators. But James Devlin and Alok, they know their stuff. They know the industry. So you can't kind of wing it or bullshit to them because they actually know, and they go and look it up. And so they were really good, right? Because they drove us at a solid state. Portage, really good. Juliet, who's in there, was doing it with Adam Fileski. Adam's the CEO. I mean, you know, he understands transfer agency, understands the financial services industry, being involved in the UK. So again, really point. And then we had these strategic guys, the strategic players with Citi and State Street, and that, you know, they were you know, they're driving a different, like I said, it's a different purpose, but still aligned with our business. And we were a bit different, right? So the difference was, I said to everyone, is that, and not just as an aspiration, because everyone says, oh, hey, we want to kind of go and list this. And I said, look, I've bought and sold. I've created and sold a number of businesses along the way. Most exits from venture partners or exits from startups are typically, if the business doesn't run out of money, tend to be trade sales. Now I can't remember what, it's a huge amount. But I said, I don't want to do that. I don't need to do that. What I want to do is create a business that's going to last and not become part of something else and just get sucked up, and then, you know, people will go, well, what was, I'll remember that 10 years ago. So to create something of longer value that I can step away from, and other great people, greater people can take forward. So we want to list this business. We want to and provide a return to investors through a market listing, preferably, you know, I guess in the US rather than the UK for all sorts of reasons. But we set our stall out of that. And when we sat down with the VCs, we said, look, this is the first principle for us, is we will get lots of offers, you will get that, but we're probably going to tell you no on a constant basis, because this is our vision. We want to do this by, you know, 28, 29. And so we have a lot of things to do along the way, but we're going to set the business like that. So as we come into that, it's part of our DNA. And that was a big, now getting the strategic investors to align with that was probably easier, because they said, actually, that's great, because we don't want you to be owned by someone else. That's a problem for us. The venture capitalists kind of want to get quick exit sometimes, but they all bought in, and they all bought into that vision. They may tell me differently in 12 months' time, but you know, that's the first principle. So we kind of laid that out, and I think that really helped then cement the way that we're operating.
And who you get with it from there. So you mentioned 24 and you know, the immediate sort of I think that's so fascinating. It's like the everyone talks about the gold medal slump afterwards, isn't it? When you have the Olympic cycles for 4 years, and then you win your gold medal and you're not fulfilled afterwards, and you have that sort of weird depression that comes after it. So I think, yeah, when you've raised 25 million pounds and everyone's thinking of this euphoric party popping moment, and the champagne corks going, there's actually a very different sort of thing where it's now, and this is the entrepreneur's mindset all over, isn't it? Now looking forward and saying, right, what's next and where are the problems, and rather than enjoying the moment. So talk to me a little bit about, I know it's exciting. I know there's a lot that's coming up. Tell me a little bit about what 2024 looks for you. And you mentioned there, I love the whole thought of legacy and building something that isn't just this sort of transient thing that gets flipped over. Tell me what the vision is for you.
Yeah, so well, there's a number of kind of, if I unpick that, probably a number of different themes. But 2023 for us was going live with the first major client, proving the solidity of the platform, the capability. So we're live in the UK with all of this client, and that's been in stable production. It's going really well. We're really happy with that. Still doing lots of development releases on that. 24 for us is as we extend now across global markets. So it's the core thing that differentiates us apart from cloud and microservices, is that it is a truly single code base. So we're not having a separate version for 20. Was one business that I worked for had said they had a single code base and they had 22 versions. We are developing from a single core application, and that presents enormous complex problems in engineering, like, because you've got clients that want different things. But if you manage your way through that, then what I always think is, as you get to a point of scale in a business, which is beyond 24, is the business can grow, gather asset, and get more profitable over time. A lot of these corporates become less profitable over time. I think I always call it diseconomies of scale, and where these multiple code bases and now then become technology debt and legacy. So they don't reduce their costs; they actually increase their costs, but they hide that through buying other businesses and all sorts of things. But for us, we said we want to be pure. We are a software firm. We don't want to run the software ourselves. We'll run the infrastructure, but we don't do ops. That's not our kit bag. We're great engineers. 60-something% of our team, which is 100 strong, is our engineers, technologists, actually co-writers. And so for 24 for us is we're expanding into Ireland and Luxembourg markets, so that gives us a global footprint, and then we'll move towards the US.
The south or the north of Ireland?
So Dublin, yeah.
Dublin, okay, yeah.
So it's not people there, more as we build.
Oh, client bus, okay, yeah.
All the fund structures for those markets, which gives you all the offshore ranges.
Got you, yeah.
It opens accessibility to beyond the UK market to trillions of asset, and for us, it's then about moving assets. So I think we're very good at winning customers. I think people see us as authentic. They see us as honest, which is really important. We're very transparent. We tell you where we are. We tell you where we have capability in the product and where we don't. But we tell you when we're going to get it. And sometimes that's rare in financial services and industry. And so I think there's a degree. It's one of the things I probably have hung my career on. It's not a career. My thing is that level of integrity. I think for me, if I agree something with you, I'll do everything I can to keep to that, even if it means that I personally suffer. And I've always done that. I think it's just as part of, and sometimes that's a stupid thing because you end up losing a lot more than what you could have had, but at least you sleep well, right? So I've always been like that. So I think that for me,
turned out all right in the end.
yeah, just to sort of honor those commitments. So if we make a commitment to a client, then we do. And we always say, actually, I don't know that the VC's like this, but, but we do say, we overinvest in relationships and our customers. And that means we will spend more than normal to go the extra mile to do the things that they need, even if it means it's sometimes at our personal cost. But 24 for us is product across those markets. And globalizing that and moving asset. So we've got the clients. We're now part of it is you can have the world's greatest tech, but what we're talking about is moving trillions of dollars of asset from legacy, infrastructures and technology onto ZILO over the next 5 years in a way the industry has never seen. And so we're very good on migration and how we tool our way through all of that. Massively capable, massively important to us, and also to take risk out for those clients. So the reason there's the historic inertia has not been about price, ironically, because it's expensive, these old systems. It costs the asset management industry a lot of money to run these because they're paying too much money for them. But the risk of moving it traditionally is, and the cost of moving has been huge. But now we're able to do that in a different scale because of artificial intelligence, because of all of that. I mean, we're really strong on that capability migration. We're also strong on blockchain and artificial intelligence capability within the engineering practice. So it's one of the things we've invested in really early on. And that's not just about changing operational processes with a bit of AI. It's actually how we engineer, how we do everything, how we transform our organization internally to using AI for our business. So the entire organization is using AI with its versions of it's actually our own version built on top of ChatGPT-4 or
exciting, isn't it?
Anthropic or Claude. But so we're and it's huge. But I mean, I was really disappointed, I have to say, anecdotally, when the IA comes out last year with a paper about DeFi infrastructures and blockchain and asset tokenization. Really good stuff, right? Really important, massively important for the industry. And it says, and the next thing we're going to do is AI, but we'll come to it in 24, 25 or something. I'm like, are you missing do you not see this? And it's the way how Musk describes that there's a kind of a flat plane of people who kind of have an understanding of AI, and then there are these spikes of the people that really look at the technology level and understand. I think we're in those spikes because we've seen it. We've seen AI writing code for us, and AI talking to one AI talking to another AI. And when you see that and you bring that to life, you go, wow, this stuff is, I mean, it's really cool.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's a threat to humanity or jobs. I mean, I think it would change its jobs, but
that's exactly the point, right? It's a switch. It's
the greatest productivity increaser that probably we are going to see since the birth of the internet.
Yeah.
And if the UK, and I mean, ironically it's a Kiwi, but if the UK PLC kind of gets on top of this and adopts it, then, it's really going to boost productivity and capability.
Which is at the key of every, if you look at global productivity and its decline over the last 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
It's screaming out for it. And so you're so right. I think, look, there isn't a conversation or a person I speak to who hasn't got AI on the agenda, but the people there who are actually genuinely using AI in its proper form, which isn't just about Boolean searching, whatever it may be, or doing little bits and pieces. But it's fascinating to see that, where people are actually genuinely seeing the transformation opportunity within it, and that makes it very exciting to me.
If you look at ZILO and you do the math on our type of business and stuff in the business plan, we're 100 odd people. I think we're at in theory, we should top out some this year around 170. So it's still a long, big recruitment cycle. And then, in some subsequent years, as we continue to scale, if we meet our plan, we should be 350, 400 strong organization. And that I can promise you now, ZILO will never be an organization beyond 150 people. And that's because we will engineer through AI,
Yeah.
and meant our business through that, where we will be just hyper efficient. And I think that's massively important. I'm less concerned about profitability, because that comes, but more about the quality of and the speed of which we can move through code and product and deliver great product and capabilities to our customers, and on a continuing basis. So it's good, but it does change. AI changes the nature of engineering, the nature of the people you need now. People that really understand product, that understand the subject, SME, subject matter experts, that understand that and are able to articulate that so that it can be then prompted through a set of AI.
I think the role of the sort of product specialist, the product manager, and CPO is without question being one of the fastest growing sort of areas that we've seen in the last 5 years or so, and I think it's going to continue to be of more and more importance. And I was speaking to a partner at EY yesterday, a financial services partner, banking partner, who was mentioning to me, we sort of discussed the whole Netflix concept of talent density and making sure that you've got lean teams who are overperforming where they went, and I think they learnt that Netflix during the dot-com bubble at the very sort of start of their journey, and actually sort of have made themselves productive and efficient because of that sort of mentality. So I absolutely agree. Look, it's amazing what you can get, and productivity has got to be at the center of where people are thinking their businesses can go further forward, right?
It's probably it's a really interesting kind of topic in its own right, about people and high performance and stuff. I mean, I hired as our chief of staff was a guy called Anton Oliver, who's the ex-All Black.
Yeah.
And and the reason is, yes, he's got asset management experience and he's a super bright guy, but actually he also has experience in what high performing teams are, and there's a whole lot of I'm not sure if they're virtues, but a whole lot of things that come with that you need to have, and culturally in that. And part of that is open and honest transparency, and that sort of culture. And we're still, yes, we've got Series A money, but that's got to last us, right? So we can't go and out hire, just throw buckets of cash at people and things. So they have to buy into our culture, and there is a kind of a there's different extremes. There's what before Musk arrived, Twitter culture, which I think was really kind of warm and fuzzy, let's say. Great environment, great people, and then probably the SpaceX culture, which is more let's say
obsessive.
Yeah, well, there's a word which I like, actually, called urgent intensity, or 2 words, urgent intensity, and I think for us as a business right now, we have to focus on that, because we need to move fast, we need to do things well. Although we are working with corporates and we have to be very corporate and have really strong governance, it's not what I don't want as a business that makes decisions by committees, because that's the first way to shoot a innovation company in the head. And so what we try and do with all of our people is we have a very flat structure, and we move to zone management, right? So 4 zones. Jeffrey Moore talked about this in terms of zone structures. So one of the things I looked at was, and I'm an uneducated guy, but I read. So, but what I looked at was Jeffrey Moore's kind of writing on all of the zones and how you get innovation on a constant basis by moving to these 4 types of zones. So we have basically our grow revenues and clients, core services, labs, which is innovation, and then product, and they all run almost independently. So it's cross-functional. But getting those, and they basically challenge each other very strongly. So that was really important to get that intensity. And then we've got to kind of drive in a really focused way at stuff. So we were trying to hire someone the other day, and it's quite interesting. And they asked us for, they'd been off, actually didn't ask, they went to another employer, and they were offered like a number of days a year to paid by the employer to focus on charitable work and stuff, which, you know, I was part of the big exchange with the big issue group, so I'm kind of all in for all of that. But I don't see it as a corporate or a company's purpose to do that. If people want to do that, they should do that. And if the company wants to do it as a company, then it should do that. But right now for us, and I was challenged by the team, well, can't we do that? And I'm like, guys, we don't have time. That's time poor, right? We have this much development to get into that much time. And so we are all in. We're the culture of urgent intensity, but that's not in a vicious way. So we have to treat our people really well and do all of the right things. But there'll be a time when we can afford to do that. But that's probably when we're not using investors' money, when we're generating our own cash and profitability. And
I love that. I think it's so fascinating. This is something which I'm very passionate about. Full stop. I can talk to you for a long time on another date about all of that sort of thing. I've also realised I've done a horrible job about keeping this to half an hour, half an hour. And I'm pleased that we haven't, because it's been a conversation I could be having for ages. But I know I should start to wrap things up for you. So, Phil, wonderful story in terms of where you're going. Really excited to see where you're going, and there's so much more. This has definitely got episodes 2 and 3 that we need to follow up with at the same time. But tell me, look, people have been listening to this, and people are going to be fascinated. I know who listens to this. I know people who I'm speaking to. There's going to be loads of people who are really keen to find out more about what you're doing from a professional point with ZILO itself, but also from your journey and such. Like, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you and hear more about the business?
So look, the best way is to contact us. I mean, I'm on LinkedIn, and people do that pretty often. It's sometimes pretty hard to respond. And if people want to contact, just go off the website to ZILO. There's all our contact details there, so you can get to me.
They'll find you somehow.
Yeah, I'm never far from the website or anywhere. So yeah, like we're very accessible. So if people want to talk and stuff, I always believe, rightly or wrongly, what experience we've had, I'm happy to share. I'm happy to give back if people need help. That's paying it forward.
When you got time.
Well, that's the rub, right? But look, yeah, we're very accessible,
and it's very exciting as well. Listen, I wish you the very best of luck. Congratulations. I do hope you managed to enjoy it a little bit over in New Zealand when you're there for Christmas.
Well, the weather was great. Then you kind of the brutality of being in New Zealand is not when you're there, because it's slow and it's quiet and it's wonderful. And even when they say the beaches are full, it's like you're going, where's everyone? But then 17 hours back to Dubai, 2-hour layover in Dubai, and 7 hours to London, sort of straight, or 6-7 hours straight flight. So you end up in London, and the time. Yeah, so it's a week of. Well, actually, the great thing was I was in the gym at 4 a.m. every morning.
Well, look, I'm so pleased to hear it all going so well. I loved hearing the story. I've been scribbling notes here as you've been talking, which I'm going to be stealing as my own. Urgent intensity is definitely something there which my team are going to be hearing a lot more about as well. But Phil, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Thanks for joining us today, and I wish you the very best of luck.
You're welcome, and thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure, and thank you all for watching. We will see you soon on another episode of FinTech Focus TV. Thanks a lot.